All right, construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum, and we're here for another episode of Construction Champions Podcast, where we're burning down the house and we're rebuilding it. So I need to come up with a new line, I think, right there, because I've been saying we're burning down the house for too long and rebuilding it. Send me some messages. Let me know what exactly are we doing on Construction Champions here? Because I know we're having a huge impact. We're changing mindsets. We're bringing leaders together, and we're doing absolutely amazing things. Is it burning a house down? I guess that is a great question. That might be the question better than what makes a construction champion. So give me your input. Let's talk about what exactly you feel when you tune in to Construction Champions Podcast. I'm fired up as usual. We have an amazing guest. Will, it is great to have you here today.
Well, thank you very much, Ron. And I'm not going to lie, after that intro, my house is probably burning down after that. So yes, good start.
So maybe we do need to change that terminology, you know? I mean, maybe we're bulldozing the house down so we can rebuild it. I mean, we're just changing that mindset that's around the construction industry, not just for builders and contractors, but for our clients as well. And what is possible, Will? So I'm super excited. Why don't you tell all the champions out there a little bit about yourself and kind of how we got here today?
Yeah, well, Ron, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, and I appreciate the intro. So, if your listeners and your watchers, my name is Will Synnott. I'm the VP of Sales for Disperse, which is a construction technology startup that's been around for about 7 years. Based over here in the UK, hence the accent. But we are, we do cover UK, Ireland, and also in America. We've got a number of projects with a number of large contractors. My background is actually in engineering and in construction. I've got 14 years of construction background, geotechnical engineer by trade. It's basically someone who used to like to play with soil and rocks. And then as I kind of went through my career, I noticed loads of issues and I wanted to see how I could help it. And I ended up working for Disperse, who is ultimately, as you pointed out, changing the mindsets and changing the way that we work for the better, because the industry does need change. It is going through a change process, but like we know, construction is slow, just by its very nature, but relatively slow. So I think we have to remember that we're building things that take a long time. And ultimately, the aim is for Disperse to help resolve a lot of the issues that we have on construction sites.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to have our conversation today.
Thank you. Yeah, likewise.
The industry is ever changing. I'm just burning down the house. I'm still there. I hate to keep going back to it, man.
Wait, we can go through a whole discussion about, I've got my whiteboard. We can do some brainstorm if you want to change the subject about this.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're doing great things. It's awesome to have you on here. And I'm excited to talk about the $1 million question, which is what makes a construction champion?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I think it's kind of 2 or 3 answers to that. I think the champion ultimately, I think, needs to be putting the customer at the forefront, for helping the customer. And ultimately, if you're helping that customer out, you're then ultimately helping out the construction industry. But I also think that the construction industry itself needs champions like yourself to actually help, bring up these conversations, to actually have those discussions. I discuss a lot about implementation of software and our services that we have, but also just the issues that are on construction sites. And I really do believe that actually bringing up and having those conversations, the tough conversations, especially when it comes to the issues on site, the data loss, is 3D BIM worth it or not? And actually having those conversations, I think, is a really important thing that champions need to be kind of discussing. And then ultimately, it's the people actually on the ground, the boots on the ground, so to speak. They are some of the hardest working and also the busiest people that I have met. And if you're not essentially supporting them, then I think those elements you're missing out. You aren't that champion. So that's kind of like my view. So helping out the client, helping out the industry, and ultimately helping out the boots on the ground. That's probably kind of like, I don't know, I've kind of encompassed the entire industry there. But I think those 3 elements are really important. I don't know, Ron, what's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, we're going to talk about some hard subjects in the construction industry today. You brought up clients, customers, best experience for them. You brought up adapting technology and how that rolls out into the field, and then the boots on the ground. this is the meat and potatoes of what people say change needs to happen in the construction industry with. So I love it. Let's just start with the customer experience, man. I'm all about the customer experience.
Yes, I know.
That should be a differentiator.
100%. Yeah, well, kind of like starting on that, and I heard your podcast recently with Bricks and Bytes, which was really good, by the way. And you talked about like the user experience and like how you're catering it to like the contractors, the trade, so to speak. And what Disperse is trying to do is make a platform that can be easily accessible for anyone to pick up and use and understand the data and the insights that we have without essentially a manual. I think there's too many software platforms out there that you do kind of need a manual. If you can't get on it and just kind of simply just see what the works are, what's actually happening, or it's intuitive enough, then your platform's got a problem. And there are just too much like, here, read this manual, have this long onboarding session. If you need that, I think there's an issue. And that's what we really try to do at Disperse, is we're trying to guide you through what the issues are on your construction site by essentially showing you, giving you almost like a breadcrumb of data. Like, you need to go here because there's a problem, and we'll make it really clear. And that helps out the ultimate person, the customer, the client, of like actually understanding like what my problem is without really having to work hard at finding it, if that makes sense, Ron.
No, absolutely. I think intuitive when it comes to technology, if you listen to my episode there. So, I mean, I have a construction software company. It's very intuitive. I have a problem with all this fluff that's in construction tech. I don't necessarily get on it in here a lot, but there is a lot of bullshit in construction tech out there, and there's a lot of fluff, and there's not enough stuff that just does what it's supposed to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
I love what you're talking about there, because that's what creates that customer experience. Like,
exactly.
My goal, I always say, like, how do we create a win for the builder and the contractor? Like, if they win, their customer wins. We should be looking at how you set up. So anybody that serves the construction industry should be looking at how do you create wins for those builders and contractors? Because if you're not creating wins for them, their customer's not winning. And if their customer's not winning, no one else is winning, because at the end of the day, what matters the most is that builder and contractor's customer having a great experience. And that's what we need to do. We need to set up the industry for success with that. So it's just easy, because it's not that contractors and builders want to deliver bad customer experiences. It's just the tools haven't been there.
I can agree with that. And I think also, just to take like one step further, is that and something that we do at Disperse as well, is that if we find that there's an element where there's an input that's required, we make it a service. We take that pain away from the contractor. So what I mean by that is, like, when we onboard, when we ask for all the information to like build our platform, we'll try our best to not disturb them. We'll go straight to your document control, like Procore or ASite or whatever you have, and we'll extract it. Okay. In fact, you just send me over your schedule. We'll do all the tasks. You just sit there. You just sit back. Like, we really try to make the platform as least amount of input as possible, if that makes sense, but with maximum output. And I think that's the bit where yes, the user interface and experience needs to be really smooth and easy, but it's just that extra bit that we're doing is like providing that service on bits, which isn't a software related. It does need an input, but we're making that as an input, if that makes sense, Ron.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And it's amazing. You're over there in London, and it's all the same. Like, this show is listened to all over the world, because the same problems exist in the construction industry, no matter what country you're in.
They're everywhere.
Amazing.
They're everywhere, because our platform essentially tracks a construction build in near real time, a weekly update. I can tell you exactly where trade A, B, C, D, all of your works that's visual. I can tell you where they are. I can tell you what work's been done. I can tell you if they've installed the fit out works correctly based upon your drawings, and I can do that remotely. Okay, so it does open up the opportunity to essentially scale to anything, but it also just shows that the issues that you have in America are the same issues that we have over here in England. Okay, and I was speaking to someone from Singapore, and they described their workday, and I was like, they're exactly the same problems that we have over in the UK. And so they're very similar issues. The industry is just not necessarily caught up with the construction tech that's been going. And I don't blame him because it's advancing at a rapid rate. And it's hard, for businesses to kind of keep up, even like us as just consumers. We're on iPhone 15 soon, and it's just like I'm just getting used to iPhone 30.
Well, that leads us right into the number 2 point you brought up is just technology and that adaptation. So how do guys better adapt technology into their business, or what should they be looking for? I guess.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about that question quite a lot recently. 'Cause I think implementation I think it's one of the hardest parts of the industry of anything. I joke with Brooks and Bytes actually that I read a really good book is selling is hard, buying is harder, but I think it's implementation is hardest. And I generally do think, and I can understand why, but because you're essentially asking the boots on the ground, or just anyone who's working in the industry, like we've got this methodology here, we've got this tool, which is amazing. It's got huge amounts of data capability, and then it's that sudden change. And it's like, well, hang on, I'm comfortable, okay. And where we find our platform really gets like the catalyst starts is when something happens on site where they have to go back to our platform and go, we need to go look at that data from trade 1 and 2 because there is definitely a drop in efficiency or the productivity. Why? They'll go back to that, they'll see the graph and they'll go, right, let's go to the photos. That from then, when they see it's been proved its value, that's when they see the implementation. And I think that's part of it, is that people are reluctant to kind of make the change because they're comfortable, and it's hard to make a change, especially when you're already really busy. When you're already like rammed at it, it's like, why? I'm already at 120%, and you're asking me to take a little bit of time to learn something? No. And I think that's one of the issues that what we have in industries. It's like, but it's also that unknown as well. It's like, are you, even though we've got loads of references and loads of other clients that are using us, it's that unknown. It's like, well, is it really going to work? Because if it doesn't, then my job, not my job's out of line, but I've got an issue if it doesn't work. I've got to go back over myself. If that makes sense, Ron.
No, that absolutely makes sense, because you bring up some great points. Is anytime you're implementing anything, whether it's a new system, a technology, or anything in your business, there's moments of uncomfortness because something is changing, probably changing for the better, but the system, what everybody has always done, is now changing. So there's a learning curve there. And I think we don't do a good enough job addressing that. People just think, oh, I'm going to plug and play something and it's going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to change my business. Well, yeah, long term, it's going to. You give it 30 days, it will, but there's that transition that has to happen. And then you brought now, I'm just really what you said there, because that to me is something that I think we don't do a good job with, because it's like, if it's not working within a week, then it becomes like, okay, we'll just scrap it. And then when you talk about the capacity, like I'm at 120, but what you're doing is, if you take time to do this right, it's going to bring you back down to like 89, as long as you the right solutions. I'm not every solution, every tech stack, everything for every business is different. You have to find out what works best for you, your employees, your customers on a daily basis. But give it 30 days of actually doing it, putting in the information. And I watch guys all the time, it completely changes their business because they're not at 120% anymore. And they get over that learning curve to where it becomes easy, and it's just a game changer. And I think that goes with anything we do.
I can agree with that. And I'd also probably just add a little bit that what I've found is where our platform has been running, and we've then taken them from that 120 back down to 70, 80%. Okay, they've got that extra additional capacity. They're human, and they will then get back up to 100% very quickly. But the way that I like to apply it is like, well, at least you can, now that extra 20, 30%, you're applying that on more valuable stuff for either your business or your site. You're spending an extra day essentially, dealing with trades, one-on-one, rather than before you were only able to do half a day. And that's the real value that a lot of people, the boots on the ground, so to speak, that's their real value, is dealing with the trades, not having to walk around a construction site trying to track progress or find issues. They're trying to deal with it. And but ultimately, we are just humans, and we will always be busy. I don't like that word busy, but we will always push to it's just in our nature. And so, but I think squaring that and making it very clear to the clients, like that's what we've achieved. And if we were to pull this tool away, you're going to go back up to now 150%, which happens when when people move and they go, well, I'm so comfortable with this platform and I've moved over to this site and I can't be as efficient. You know what I mean? Those are the moments where it really starts to spark and where clients are really like, no, I have to have Disperse. Otherwise, I cannot work. It's like if I took a spreadsheet away from every engineer or every person listening to this, they could not work. You have to have a spreadsheet, to do the fundamentals of your home finance even. If you took that away, you wouldn't be able to do whatever you do. If that makes sense, Ron.
No, that does, because I mean, the goal is always to be able to do more high level stuff or to continue to work and grow the business.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
In order to do that, you have to be able to put the systems in place, put the technology in place, put everything in place that allows you, because as you're growing a business, you're going to consistently be going from 80 to 130 to 80 to 130. But the goal is every time you bring it back down, it's because you automated 50% of it, or you made a system that it allows you to not have to be as hands-on, and then you fill it with higher level valued stuff and continue depending on where you're wanting to go with the business. Like some people, you get to a certain point, this is where you want to be, and then you can just scale it back from 130 to 80 to 70 to 30 to 10. And all you're doing is maintenance in it because you're where you want to be at with the business. And I think understanding that is important.
Yeah. No, I do definitely agree with that. So yeah.
So let's talk about the boots on the ground. The people that actually utilize stuff. They actually have to do what we think of at a high level.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that, and this isn't just Disperse, but this is just like my views as well. It's like, and I said this earlier, like the boots on the ground, they are the busiest people and they are working some of the hardest conditions. Even when we have the summer over here in the UK, it rains most of the time. But even that, you're outside most of the time. Or if you're waiting for the wall, for the facade to go on, it's in the winter, it's freezing cold and you're having to wrap up. So the time that they actually have out on site needs to be as efficient and as viable as possible. So we didn't want to build a platform that required them to essentially give an input, if that makes sense. We wanted a platform that they can easily consume the data and the insights that we have, so then they can do more with their time that they are actually on site, rather than having to faff around, walking around with a camera, taking photos, or finding issues and inputting it. We wanted to really make that much more easy for them. So that's essentially Disperse is there to really help the boots on the ground, but also just from a personal level, just to make everyone aware of just what they do. The hard work that they have, what the work that they are, the hours that they do, and just making it more known, because I don't think people really fully respect just like how hard people actually work on construction sites. Not everyone. I'm not saying, I'm sure there's and this is here. I don't do that, but I know there's a lot of people that do.
Well, I mean, that's about changing the mindset around the entire industry to where you have that. Like, it's no longer people looking at it as, oh, it's just trades. Oh, it's just the construction industry. I firmly believe we're 5-10 years at most out from construction and trade workers being looked at in the same lens as doctors and lawyers. And it's our responsibility to change that mindset around the industry and continue to grow it, and let people know that we are some of the smartest people out there. We're not just a bunch of people that couldn't find anything better to do. We just like to solve problems and work with our hands.
No, I 100% agree with that, and I think it also just comes with time and also just exposure. You're going to have some really good trades out there, and you're also going to have some really rubbish trades. But that's no difference to having rubbish engineers and really good engineers. I guess it's just a case from a local level, making it really clear, like, I am the best in the area, and making that more known. And I guess it's a case of then leveraging technology such as social media to make it more known of the capabilities of actually what you do, and probably, I guess, guests on your podcast showcasing like the reason why we do charge what we do is because we are the best and it is the highest quality. But also kind of on that, even like platforms like Disperse, but also other technologies that are actually coming out, they are actually getting to a point where they can essentially support and showcase that data, like how good you are. Because we're getting to a stage where there's enough data out there to almost grade and quantify like how good your different trades are. So you actually, as a trade, not only from like the references or the actual quality from what you see, but they'd actually have a numerical value like, yeah, we were on time on our projects and Disperse said we were. Or, out of all the snags that we had, we had 50% less than everyone else in our zone. We're getting to that point. There is technology, including Disperse and others, that we are there. So actually having that ability to really shine and showcase will make it more easy for the boots on the ground to kind of show that.
Awesome. I love it, man. This has been an amazing conversation today. I have really enjoyed it. I think we dove into some stuff that just should be talked about. And a lot of times isn't, because it can be a hard conversation. It's a hard hurdle to get over, man. So if any of the construction champions out there wanted to follow you, connect with you, where do they do that?
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. So just go onto LinkedIn and type in Will Synnott and you'll be able to find me. I work at Disperse, and LinkedIn's probably the best place. That's where I basically hang out. So and obviously I'm on this podcast now. I believe my email address will be on the show notes, but feel free to reach out to me. Although I'm in the UK, I also cover America as well, and I'm in America once a month. So when we have operations in America, and we are expanding in America. So feel free to reach out to me if anyone wants to chat, not just about Disperse, but if you just want to talk about construction technology, feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome, man. When you're in the United States, where do you end up being at?
Well, I've just got back yesterday. I was in New York for 3 days. I was in DC for 1 day, and then Delaware. That's right. Delaware University for 1 day as well. So, and then future, I'll be going to Florida. Texas is coming up, and New York. Yeah, will be probably the main thing.
New York's probably just the main hub for you, if I had to guess.
Well, it's the closest, but also we've got a number of projects that we've been there for 2 or 3 years now. So we've got a number of projects that are live already there. So.
Awesome. Well, if you ever find yourself in North Carolina, you're gonna have to
I will, mate.
I will.
Yeah, okay. I will. Well, you never know. I was actually thinking of taking a road trip down from DC down to Florida, so I'm sure I'll have to pass you and say hi.
There you go. If you're driving through the coast, let me know, man. But thank you for taking the time to be on the show today.
It was a pleasure, Ron. Thank you ever so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, construction champions. Another great episode where we really dove into some of the problems that plague the construction industry from the highest level. Technology implementation, getting back your time, and the impact on the boots on the ground. So I don't talk about it a lot on here, but I do have a construction software company, but I'm a component of everybody needs to figure out what technology works best for their company. It's a time as the construction industry to stop being afraid of technology. I know so many great guys that are building technology, guys that came from the industry. We're taking this back. I know we can be jaded from all the Silicon Valley technology that got pushed out years ago that didn't 100% fulfill the need or fulfill their promise. And we're moving beyond that. There's technology out there that works and can completely change your business. And it's up to us as business owners and construction leaders and champions to go out there and investigate it. Find out what works best for your company. So, construction champions, make sure you go check out our Facebook mastermind group. It's completely free. Join it. We're connecting guests, listeners, myself, everybody in one place so we can continue having this conversation. Not just me and like Will today, we can have this conversation together as an industry. Make sure you go to constructionchampionspodcast.com. Check out everything we have going on there, our partners, our sponsors that continue to help bring this to reality. So, construction champions, until next time, be the champion you were meant to be. Hey, construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum here, and I want to talk to you about how you can automate all of your marketing. We've had so many people on here talk about getting the systems in place. Well, we have partnered with Build 12 and Construction Champions podcast. Les O'Hara, the founder, what really excites me is his 30 years in the industry. And now he's built a system to be able to nurture your leads and continue to utilize that. I personally use the system myself. Build 12 is absolutely amazing. There's a lot of value in there, and it's a way to start getting away from Angie's List and all of that kind of stuff and start actually creating your own leads every day and have a system for them. So go on our website, check out the show notes, go check out Build 12 and what it can do for the front end of your business today. It's absolutely amazing. I highly recommend going and meeting with Les and his son, Devin, and talking to him about what they built for their own business so the rest of the industry can take benefit from that. Here on Construction Champions, we're all about helping each other out. And what is better than contractors helping contractors? I say nothing. So let's go take this to the next level. Go check out Build 12. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Les or his son, Devin. We're here to help. We want to continue to grow the industry.